Hi everybody, this is Dark Guardsman. This will be the news for October 19th, 2016. Just like most weeks, there's not a huge amount going on, just the normal same old stuff. But there's a few things we can talk about anyways. First thing is that I'm not the person you come to talk to about Modular Forestville system. It'll be Poopsicle here. Poopsicle is one of our new developers that we let onto the team a couple months back. He was updating MFFS by himself, and we were like, hey, let's make sure you work with us. That way we could help you out. And we were going good with that. And then I decided I was just going to hand the project directly over to him because he seems like a really good, responsible person, regardless of his name being the way it is. So he's going to be the person you ask questions about, report bugs to, talk about for everything on the thing. You still report bugs to the GitHub tracker. We'll still take care of bugs there. However, that version that we alpha released to Curse is not supported. We're using a different code base. He's the one that's has made that. His version is turned out to be really stable. Our version was unstable, although we could have stabilized it. I do not have the time to put effort forward into updating and renovating an old version of Modular Forestville system. I may in the future make a new version of it, which will use all the new technology and stuff I was talking about implementing, where we would do multi-block force field stuff, but he's going to be working on the classic version, and that's the one we're going to go with for a while. That way we can prioritize other things, and then we can get that ready for the Vaults mod pack, which I want to have done by the end of the year. But that's going to be a hard push, considering I only got 2 months left to do that. Other than that, the Warhead station is working nice. I'm going to show this off real quick. I don't know if I showed this off already, so if I did, I apologize. If I didn't, well, you get a look at it. In other words, this has not been a planned out news thing, but that's normal. I never plan these out. Unscripted to the end. Okay, so this is the Warhead workstation. Now the final model is not going to look exactly like this. A lot of the tools are going to be removed off the top, and then you'll see the Warhead render on the top. Right now the GUI is basic. Ignore the numbers, these are debug information, so that way I can identify the slot number and the slot ID. There's two different numbers. As you can see down here, we'll have a number and a different ID. That's because how the GUI tracks the ID for the slot and how the actual inventory track it are two different ways, and I had to figure that out, so I put both numbers up there. Only one of the numbers is important. I don't remember which one. I think it's the yellow one is the important number, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter, as long as the GUI knows which number is important. But this pretty much works straightforward. Let me get some items here. Now the GUI is going to be changed around eventually too, so it's not going to look exactly the way it currently looks. This is just to get things going. It's going to have, there's a high likelihood, because this is the output slot, this is the input slot. I need to add a slot for triggers and a few other things. So there's a high likelihood that this will move up to the corner, this will move over further, and then there'll be 3 slots here in the middle that'll have lines going from this slot to this slot and then out to that slot. That way it's easier to understand, and then I'll most likely try to do some back renders on here so you can tell what slots used for what. Now, this is how this works basically though, is that you stick an empty warhead into the first slot, which is your input slot. Then you stick your explosive in the second slot, which is the explosive slot. Then you click craft. And there you go, you're done. It'll craft the maximum size warhead, so whatever you put in here is how many it'll try to stick in there. Small warheads can only have 5 explosives, so therefore you're only going to get 5 in there. But it crafts, and that's pretty easy. I'm going to leave the handcrafting recipes in here, and I most likely will improve and update the handcrafting recipes. What the warhead station will actually primarily be used for, it's because it's not designed for just crafting, is configuring the explosive so you can decide how the explosive goes off. So you can put triggers in there. So by default, a warhead has an impact trigger, so when it impacts something it blows up. But then you can do proximity triggers, so how close you get to the ground or other objects. Line of sight trigger, which will be the same as the ground, but it'll draw just a line of the ground. So where the proximity will, if you get, say, next to a tree, it'll go off. the line of sight will not go off next to the tree. Instead, it'll only go off if it can see the ground. And you can do other things with that too. Like there'll be timers, so you can append on top of the trigger a timer, so that way after it gets to its minimum, you can then time for like 3 seconds and then go off. That'll also work for impact, so after impact it'll be, you can put a timer on there so you can go like 15 seconds and then go off. There's trap delay triggers I'm going to have, so if somebody gets close to the missile after it impacts, then it timers and then goes off. Tampering triggers, which means somebody has to go to try to move the missile after it impacts and then it goes off, so you can mix and match that. But I mean, it's pretty much going to be, so there's going to be a few tabs on here. So you'll have your crafting tab will be the first tab that opens up. Then I'll have little buttons over here on the side here, which you'll click, which will open up a decrafting, so you can pull all the parts back out of it. There'll be the configuration tab, which will change all the settings. The trigger tab, of course, will be on the crafting tab. There'll be separate tabs to configure the explosives and triggers separately. So the explosives will have a configuration because each of them will have their own little settings. Not all explosives will have settings. Some will have some because they'll be shape charged, but not all of them will have some. Like some of the shrapnel, like the arrow one will have one. You can change your shrapnel angles. I'll eventually add that. Right now the shrapnel angles are randomized, but it wouldn't be too much code to say, well, I no longer want the shrapnel to be pointed straight down. Because one of the big things is when the shrapnel missiles hit the ground, they shrapnel in all directions, including into the ground itself, which means you lose like a third of your arrows into the ground by default. I tried to avoid that in the code, but to be honest, that's how it behaves in real life, so there's no reason to change it. Of course, you'll be able to adjust the triggers, fine-tune them. Like, it'll be impact sensitivities. You'll be like, hey, only go off if we impact dirt, or only go off, or if we impact something dirt or harder, or we impact something that's harder than glass. Because, for example, the missiles actually are programmed to go through glass. The only reason they don't in the actual version is because when they hit the glass, they blow up. But that'll be a thing, is that you could put and say, hey, I don't want you to triggers to go off if you hit something soft, like glass. Glass is brittle and is not very hard, so it'll break through. You can also have a delay on it too, saying like you have to have impacted for like a second, which will not be so much as a timer, but think of it like if you press down a spring, the spring has to press down all the way and not just partially away in for it to go off. But yeah, once again on the renderers though, it's what you'll see is if I can find, oh yeah, it's right, I should have a Warhead in my inventory. These are placeable, most people didn't realize that. The models suck, I have been waiting for new models for these, but this will render on top of that. And then I'll move the tools around to accommodate, and then I'm going to try to put a box down on the bottom shelf here. Because this shelf right here, which you're seeing, is actually designed and put inside of Volts Engine, is designed for all of my mods to use. So this will be a universal table. You'll see it in several mods. I most likely will put a version of it inside Volts Engine itself that'll be considered a dynamic crafter, where normally everything in Minecraft you have to craft with this. And you got your little 3x3 grid. I hate this 3x3 grid. It is one of the biggest banes of mod developers in this game, because there's only so many combinations of recipes you can stick in here that are not redundant or really complicated. So I want to get rid of needing this for any of my mods and go to something where you just have a list of items. You just have an input and an output, you're done. And you'll just pick the recipe you want to craft and stuff. And of course you'll also use it to configure tools, and it'll be used for a lot of cool stuff. And this has been on the drawing board for years. It has been one of the earliest things. Me and Calclavi originally suggested putting a high tier crafting table in some of the earlier versions of Universal Electricity back at like 1.2.5. It would have become a thing if a few of us didn't realize that we didn't think anybody actually wanted to do anything other than this instead of Minecraft. There was suggestions to do 4x4s and 5x5s of this too, but that got shot down quickly for good reasons. On to other news. So I already covered Poopsicle, I already covered that. Oh yeah. So I keep getting harassing emails by people that saying I'm making a lot of money off of Minecraft, and I shouldn't be lying over Twitter saying I'm not making a lot of money on Minecraft. Okay, so here's my curse. Now keep in mind I do have a couple curse accounts, but the other ones actually have absolutely 0 points because mods don't get downloaded at all. This is my main one. As you can see, this is the amount of points I have actually gotten in the last 2 months. That's 20 bucks basically. If I open up transactions, as you can see, I haven't been spending any of the points. So this is the points. They have been going up, which is kind of nice. I would like to see these go up a lot because I use the majority of the time the funds are used here is I buy stuff for other people, or I buy audio equipment, or I buy something for almost all the points that are from Curse are used entirely within the organization. Even though technically these are my points to use and I'm not required to do that. If I do remove point rewards, see, the last time I've ever actually cashed out, like, yeah, there's a couple times I've cashed out some gift cards here. This was when I bought an audio microphone that though I'm currently using it, I still have to fix it. And then I always give DMod points. So DMod does a huge amount of work for the organization, so I reward him usually most of the points most of the time. And then occasionally I'll give some to my interns. The interns get their own point transactions off a lot of these. If we actually go over to, if I can figure out how to get back to where I was. Like if we go to Wooden Shoes, I believe Wooden Shoes has got one of my interns on it. Yeah, so if we go here, we go to settings, we go to, they changed like the GUIs and everything here recently. So you can see like, yeah, well, he should be getting a percentage actually. Let me fix that. I don't give him much because I usually do most of the work. And I also, I don't know why that didn't update. GUIs are weird. The main reason why you won't see a lot of people get a lot of high percentage on here is right now I'm acting as the actual organization account. We're actually been talking to try to get Curse to give us an organization account. So that way then I can say, oh, well, I get 10% and then the organization gets the rest of the 80%. And then the organization funds can then be managed by me and DMod and given accordingly to who we believe deserves the points that month. For AdFly, since most people go like, hey, what, you're making money off AdFly. This is my monthly earning for AdFly. I have only made 4 cents. That's like, and if I go to all time, oh, sorry, that's disabled. Wow. This is my total earning, as you can see, $224 off of AdFly this year. That's not a lot of money. People are like, hey, you're making thousands of dollars. It's like, no, that's not how this works. Patreon's the same way. It's empty. And right now I'm paying almost $120 out of pocket per month to keep the organization afloat. So even if I was making decent money off this, it doesn't even cover a lot of the things. So right now I'm making 0 a month off of Patreon. If I go to AdSense, which is my other source of income off of stuff, if I remember how to get to the site, etc., 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 log in. It's been so long since I've logged into this because, unfortunately, how this works. So as you can tell, there's 90 bucks in here. This is the 90 bucks that's been in here for almost a year. I can't cash this out until it's $100. So they won't even give me my money for $100. Now this will cover part of this month. So I pay for GitHub accounts, I pay for server slots, I pay for various things. The websites, for example, they cost me almost $90 a year. So you got to divide that down, of course. That's how the monthly thing is figured out. 90 divided by 12. Yeah, it's only $7. But that's an example of one of the outsources of money. Talking about subscriptions for various things. Dev software that we use. Different services. It adds up to a lot of money. But we're right now making none. And this is not asking for donations because, to be honest, I care less if you guys donate. The only thing I really want to see is that the mods are actually used. Because we got 29 projects on Curse right now. Out of all 29 of these projects, ICBeam is the most downloaded. And if we actually go to the files, most of the files are not even hitting over 2,000 downloads. I understand this is because of instability and everything else. But we need people to be reporting bugs to us. That way I can fix them I can have Kalatra fix them. I can have Green fix them. We can work on making a better version. Right now, oh, well, I guess I'm recording.